Cheers, Lady Nishmas, my dear father, Ovi Moivi, Rav Pesach Moshe ben Ephraim, Zecher Tzadik Levracha. Today's his 20th Yortzeit. It's 20th Yortzeit today. And it's also Lady Nishmas Pesia bat Avraham Yehuda, and Lady Nishmas Raphael ben Moshe. Lady Nishmatam. Lady Nishmatam. And Lady Nishmas, my dear son who passed away, Yoshesh Melchayim ben Tzion Ephraim. And my dear mother who passed away, Rivka bas Yitzchak Isaac, Lady Nishmata. Before we begin, I want to tell you a little story, Gabriel. Lady Nishmas Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach. Lady Nishmas Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach, of course. Before we begin, I want to tell you a little story, Batsheva. All my stories are true. Some didn't happen yet, but they're all true. There was his two best friends, Yiddish Eliyahu. There's two best friends in Geula. One was named Yankel and one was named Shmerel. They've been Chavrusa for 65 years. In Geula, next to Meir Sharim, two best friends, studied together, did everything together, Yankel and Shmerel. 65 years they've been friends. Yankel feels that his end is near. He's 89 years old already. He feels he's getting weak, his end is near. He calls over Shmerel. You know, he says, Shmerel, I have to make a confession. I'm not Jewish. Shmerel says, Yankel, you're not Jewish. You have a boot and lange payis, a stramel, a kapota. We've been chavrusa 65 years, and you tell me you're not Jewish? So I'm telling you, I'm not Jewish. My mother's not a Jew. Yankel's in total shock. He just can't believe it. He's shocked. My best friend, lange boot and payis, a kapota, a stramel, a chusid, in Geula, he's not Jewish. He says, you're not Jewish. Let me think. You're not Jewish. A Jew is not allowed to keep Shabbos. A non-Jew, thank you. I'm just testing to see if you're awake. Testing you. Good thing you're awake so far. We'll see how you do later on. A non-Jew is not allowed to keep Shabbos. So Yankel, all these years, with a Streimel, Kampata, you're keeping Shabbos? And you're not allowed to keep Shabbos. It's a capital punishment for a goy to keep Shabbos. Says Shmerel, don't worry, I carried every Shabbos. I make sure to carry every Shabbos, so I broke Shabbos, so I'm not keeping Shabbos, so I'm not Chayiv Misa. Because a goy who keeps Shabbos is Chayiv Misa. Just calm down, Shmerel. For all the years, secretly I carried. So Yankel says, what do you mean you carried? We have an Erev. So Yankel says, Shmerel, I don't hold from your Erev. Get it? I'm a frumma goy. Ich bin a machmir. I don't hold from an Erev. Get it, Reb Yaakov? One more story, okay? Just one more story. A new one. Come on. Don't hit below the belt. This is a story that I heard from Dr. Abramson. There's this good Reformed Jewish couple lives on the 5 towns. They're Reformed Jews with Allah Hudurim. You hear this, Rabbi Abramson? A Reformed couple. They're Reformed, they're Machmir Reform. They eat treifa. They don't keep their Rosh Hashanah even the second day, the first day. They have a ball, Yom Kippur night. They do all the chumras that the Reformed Jew does. They have one son, Nebuch, one son, and all of a sudden the son goes way off the derech. Starts to put on a kippah. He starts to wear tzitzis. He starts to put on tefillin. And the parents are freaking out. Where did we go wrong? And not only that, he won't even go to a Chinese restaurant anymore. He even wants kosher. We really went wrong. He went off the derech. Where did we go wrong? A good Reformed couple. Tefillin, kashrus even. No more Chinese restaurant. Nebuch, he's way off the derech. Not even Chinese food on Shabbos. Good Chinese restaurant. They're hysterical. An only child going so off the derech. Where did we go wrong? So they went to the Reform rabbi. They're hysterical. What's with our only dear son? He's frumming out. The rabbi says, calm down. The first thing you have to do is check your mezuzahs. Okay. Later Nishmas Ovi Moira Pesach Moshe ben Ephraim Zechat Tzadik Geracha. There's a din by shofar, Elisheva. The shofar has to be ayil v'kofuf. The shofar has to be from a ram to remember the Akedas Yitzchak, which took place on Rosh Hashanah, but it has to be kofuf, bent. The more bent that it is, the more muhudar. So why does a shofar have to be bent? Why? So the Baal HaTanya explains that in Judaism, what's the symbol of Rosh Hashanah? Yom Teruah. Rashi says Yom Reyut. Truat Melech Bo, the word Teruah. Rashi says from the word Reyut. Friendship. Ain't it good to know you have a friend? Teruah means trumpet, but Rashi in Pashas Balak on the word Truat Melech Bo says the word Truah from the word Reyut, Chiba v'Reyut. If we want to win the king's friendship on Rosh Hashanah, how do you do it, Elio? By displaying friendship to a fellow Jew. Says the Baal HaTanya, therefore a shofar has to be bent, kafuf. What's the secret? We have to bend to a fellow Jew, not to be so stuck up. The Mishnah says, "Oimdim tzfufim u'mishtachavim revachim." In the Beis Hamikdash, when the Jews came up to the Oila Regel, they were all packed in like on the F train. I don't know if you know the F train in Brooklyn. If they stood rigid, there was no room for anybody else. U'mishtachavim revachim. But if they bent like a shofar, all of a sudden there's what? There's room. Says the Baal HaTanya, the secret of being a good Jew, of winning a victorious declaration on Rosh Hashanah, of being acquitted on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, is to bend, to compromise, to make way for the other, not to be so rigid. If you want to win God's friendship, Reb Zalman, by displaying friendship to a fellow Jew.
You practice here in the Rekebet.
Right? Omdin tzfufim. If you stand rigid, the Mishnah says there's no room. Umishtachavim. But if you bend to the zulat, revachim, then there's what? Then there's plenty of room. And therefore the Talmud in Sota says something strange. It is difficult for a successful marriage like splitting of the Red Sea. Gemara in Sota Daf Bet, right? Kosha zuga shel adam. It is difficult for a marriage to be successful like splitting of the Red Sea. What does A got to do with B? When the Red Sea saw the Jewish people, what did it do? It split, it parted, it made way. The secret for successful marriage is what? To make like the Red Sea. To part for the other. To make way, to bend to your partner. That's difficult to do, but that's the secret of a happy marriage. And it's just amazing that Reb Chaim Vital says the Iker judgment that Hashem judges us on Yom Kippur is how we treat our spouses. Reb Chaim Vital, the Iker judgment on Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, is the way we treat our wives and our spouses. Please close it. Why is that? Please close it. Why is that? Because Reb Chaim Vital says, for other people we wear a mask. We put on airs. We pretend to be who we're not. Only your wife, Ishtay Kegufo, Reb Zalman, she sees you the way you really are. So my Rebbe Rapam Zatzal said, Erev Yom Kippur, you shouldn't ask your wife for mechila, you should beg her for mechila. Rapam Zatzal said. So right now I'm begging my wife for mechila, that she puts up with me all year, because she sees me without the mask. Ishtay Kegufo. There's an amazing Zohar, Rabbi Abramson's amazing Zohar. I read them in the Zohar. Moshe Rabbeinu nenash. Shetziras ishto keshipirish mimena. Lechein nichtav ha'alef ketana bepasuk vayikra el Moshe. Vayikra el Moshe, there's a small aleph there. The book of Leviticus begins Vayikra el Moshe. There's a little aleph, Elio. Why the little aleph? Did Moses run out of ink? Says the Zohar, Moshe Rabbeinu nenash. Moshe Rabbeinu was punished because he caused anguish to his wife when he left her. As a punishment, God said, write the word Vayikra with a klein chika aleph. You caused pain to your wife, Tzipporah. You left her. You had good excuses, but you caused her anguish, says the Zohar, therefore you should be punished. The word Vayikra is written with a small aleph.
God told him to leave.
What?
God.
No, that's a whole... You have to invite me for Shabbaton to your house and I'll talk about it. If God told him to leave, how come Moshe and Aaron and Miriam spoke against him? It's a whole thesis. It's Shabbos, page 91. Bathsheba, you have to invite me for Shabbos. We can talk about it. We'll have to talk about it. Let's talk. If God told him, why did Aaron and Miriam speak against him?
They didn't know.
They didn't. They're Nevi'im, they know. Tosfos in Shabbos 91, that's a cliffhanger. But I want to get sidetracked because there's a lot of material to talk about. But remind me, hold me to it, okay? Getting back to our topic now. Before we get into will the UN celebrate Sukkot? Will the Iran and the US celebrate Sukkot when Mashiach comes? Stay tuned. Before that, let's speak about Yom Kippur. Why begin the holiest night of the year with Kol Nidrei? It's not even a prayer. It's not a prayer. What do you get so emotional about? It's a declaration of Ataras Nadorim. What's it got to do with the holiest day of the night? I would think you would begin with what? Well, I don't know. Oh, forgive me, Hashem, al chait. Why do you begin with Kol Nidrei? It's not a prayer. It's a declaration that all vows that I made and didn't keep should be annulled. Says the Zohar. You know why? We all vowed Nasa v'nishma. We were all there, if not in body, in spirit. We all vowed Nasa v'nishma. So says the Zohar, every time you do any sin, you're also breaking your vow. Elio, don't you remember? We were there, if not in body and spirit. We all vowed Nasa v'nishma. So to begin the day of tshuva, every sin you do also includes what, Gabriel? Breaking your word. Because we all vowed Nasa v'nishma. So any sin, you're also breaking your vow. So therefore, before we begin with al chait, we begin with what? Kol Nidrei, Hataras Nadorim. That's pretty amazing. Because every halchet you do also includes what? Breaking a vow. We all vowed Nasa v'nishma, didn't we? Yes. When he held the mountain over our heads, right? Now, why do we sing halchet? We sing Chatanu lefanecha, I am a no good sinner, la 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 la. What are you singing about? Oh, Shamnu, ay, 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 oh, Shamnu, I am guilty, Bogadnu, I'm a low-life traitor, I'm a no-good-nick. What are you singing about? Rabbi Abraham, isn't that strange? Chatanu lefanecha, I am a no-good, low-down sinner. That's what we're saying. What are we singing for? Does it make any sense, David? Said the Sam Soifer. You know why we're singing, Gabriel? Gemara on Yuma, page 86 says, Gedoyla tshuva mahava shes donot naselo kischuyot. If you do tshuva because you love God, then that avera you did becomes what? A mitzvah. That's something to sing about. The awesome power of a Jew, David, to rejuvenate. Get it? Rejuvenate? Rejuvenate. You can go back to the past. The past is not dead. Back to the future. You ate a cheeseburger 19 years ago. If you do tshuva today, me'ahava, that cheeseburger that you ate becomes a mitzvah. It's bizarre. It doesn't make no sense. But that's a fact. Who loves you, baby? how much God loves the human being, the Jew. So therefore, says the Sam Sofer, we're singing, I was a low life, da 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 da, but now I'm doing tshuva mehava. So that terrible deed that I did 16 years ago is now what? Isn't that something to sing about? How much God loves the Jew. Wow. Totally irrational, Gabriel, but that's the awesome gift of tshuva, that we can reinvent ourselves. We can recreate not just the present, but what? The past. You can go back to the past and turn that ugly Aveira into a mitzvah.
Why does it become?
Huh?
Why
does it become a mitzvah? Why? It's a good question. I think you stumped me. Why does it become a mitzvah? You know the story of the Rabbi Yitzchak Braditchev walked over to the town drunk, a ganef, a no-good bum. He says, I envy you. He says, Rebbe, why do you envy me? I'm a no-good bum. You're the chief rabbi. He says, I envy you because you have so many averot. But if you do tshuva mehava, then all those averot become what? So the bum did tshuva. And he became greater than Rabbi Yitzchak. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva says, Gedola tshuva, b'mokem shebalo tshuva omed, atzadik gomer lo yochal lamoid. A Baal tshuva stands much higher than what? Than a tzadik gomer. All those averot become mitzvot. Why, Batsheva? Why?
I'm asking you.
Okay, I think you put me on a spot. I'll try. A goody two-shoes doesn't know what's out there. He doesn't know a cheeseburger is delicious, Chinese food is delicious, the disco, you know, the boogie, it's a lot of fun. He lives in Mea Shorim, he doesn't know what he's missing. But a Baal Tshuva knows that the forbidden fruit is sweet. He knows it's good, a cheeseburger, etc. And he has the awesome willpower to cease and desist. That's a real gibor. Eze gibor? Hakovesh es Yitzro, Batsheva. To know what's out there, not to live a sheltered life in Williamsburg, where I grew up. What do I know from cheeseburgers and from discos?
Bacon.
Right? Bacon, it's delicious. And you have the willpower to change, to control yourself. God says, bravo. That's a real hero. Hakovesh, and therefore the Aveira becomes a mitzvah, because you reinvent yourself. Your willpower changes the Aveira into what? A mitzvah.
You can also
Now,
help other people, Rabbi.
of course. Been there, done that. A goody two-shoes who grew up in Mea Shorim, what do you know? You can't be late. Beautiful. And that brings me to our next point, Leo. You must have ESP. On Yom Kippur morning, we read something that has to do with the day. What do we read on Yom Kippur morning? The Kohen Gadol and the Kodesh HaKadoshim, right? The holy service of the holiest day, the holiest person. It's matim for what? For Yom Kippur. But Yom Kippur Mincha, we read something very bizarre. The Parsha of Gilead Ayot. It's bizarre. The Parsha of forbidden sex. Who's thinking about sex on Yom Kippur? Who's thinking about it? Why do you read that in the Mincha? It's bizarre. In the morning you read about the Kodesh Kadoshim, the Kohen Gadol, in the Holy of Holies, fine. But in the afternoon you read all of the illegal, forbidden sexual immorality. Isn't that strange to read on Yom Kippur? I think it's very strange. Who's thinking about sex on Yom Kippur? The furthest thing from your mind. Huh? But what has it got to do with Yom Kippur?
He will not tolerate it.
But what has it got to do with Yom
Gets you in the
Kippur?
mood for Yonah.
Says Rav Soloveitchik. Fasten your seat. I say fasten your seatbelts for this. In life, said Rav Soloveitchik, you can't be stuck in neutral. You can't be satisfied with the status quo. Therefore, Yaakov was shown a ladder in a dream. What's the symbol? Yaakov is every Jew. Nobody takes a coffee break, Gavriel, on a ladder. If you're not climbing up, you're automatically what? Climbing down. Eza Oshya Sameach Bechelko, that's only Begashmius. Eza Oshya Sameach, I'm happy with my lot. I don't need a smartphone, a dumb phone is good. I don't need a cruise, I can do without a giant flat TV screen. So when it comes to Gashmiut, then you should be Sameach Bechelko, be happy with your lot. But in Ruchnius Elio, Greed is good. Who said that? Gordon Gekko. Greed is good. Who said greed is good? When it comes to Ruchnius, says Rav Soloveitchik, spirituality, you can't be happy with your lot. There you have to be greedy. You have to be greedy. Because if you're not headed in the direction of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you might not get there. But if that's not your goal in life, your focus, if you're not focused on the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the reading of Yom Kippur Morning, that's not your goal, that's not your focus. I'm happy, I learned enough, I davened enough, I'm never going to be a big tzaddik, leave me alone, I'm happy with my lot. If that's your attitude, in Parshas Balak, Vayeshev Yisrael Bashitim, Vayichalam Liznois al Benois Moav. The Jews dwelt in Shittim, and they began to commit sexual immorality with the wild Moabite women. You understand this, Batsheva?
Absolutely.
I don't. This is 40 years after the Exodus. This generation grew up in the Midbar. What did they see? Ananei Kavod, Man, Dan Quayle. They saw all the great miracles. 40 years they saw the Shekhinah on Moshe's face. They can commit sexual immorality with the wild Moabite women? How could that be? This is 40 years after the Exodus. They didn't leave. The old generation died out. There's a new generation. How? These people saw such miracles for 40 years, Shoshana, says Rav Soloveitchik. Vayeshev Yisrael Bashitim. Once it becomes Vayeshev, you become complacent. I steiged enough, I learned enough, I'll rest on my laurels. Then it's a slippery slope that can lead to what? The wild Moabite women. There's no being stuck in neutral, says the great Rav Soloveitchik. If you're not listening to the morning reading of Yom Kippur, if you're not focused, if you're not headed for the Kodesh HaKadoshim, at least that's your direction you're headed, then you're going to wind up Nebuch in the afternoon reading of Yom Kippur. All the sexually immoral sins. Because that's the way it works in life. If you think that you're in neutral, Vayeshev, you rest on your laurels, then you wind up with the Benois Moav Lo Yaleinu. And therefore, the reading of Yom Kippur in the morning, if you're not headed for the Kodesh HaKadoshim, if that's not your focus and goal and direction, I learned, I davened enough, I'm not going to be a big tzaddik. If that's your attitude, Nebuch, it can wind up with the Gili Arayot of Yom Kippur Mincha. You make the call. If you're not with us, then you're against us. And therefore, the appropriate reading of Yom Kippur is this afternoon reading of Yom Kippur. Now, let's get to the $64 question. Will Iran and the United States celebrate... who took my Tanakh? Can I have my Tanakh there? Will Iran... Can I give me that? Thank you. Toda Rabbi. Thank you. Will Iran and the U.S. celebrate Sukkot when Mashiach comes? Before we get to that, if you look in, I didn't say anything yet, but you look in Amos chapter 9. B'yoymahu okim esukas dovet hanoifeles. On that day when Mashiach comes, God tells Amos, remember Amos? I will raise up the sukkah, the fallen sukkah of David. Why is the third temple called the sukkah, Batsheva? On that day I will raise up, as sukkahs dovet hanafeles, the fallen sukkah of King David. King David's temple, the Bayis Shlishi, is called a sukkah. Why is it called a sukkah? Not a mansion. Why a sukkah? Ever wonder? Why do we celebrate sukkahs? The Ananei HaKavod, the magic clouds from heaven. Tosfot and Rashi both say in Masechta Sukkah Daf Nun Bet, Elio, that the third temple will come like the Ananei HaKavod min Hashamayim. It won't be built by human hands. Therefore, Amos calls the third temple what? A sukkah. Because our sukkah is to commemorate the Ananei HaKavod, the magic clouds from heaven. And Rashi and Tosfot and Masechta Sukkah say that the third temple will descend from Shemayim like the Anani Yakovot Sukkah. Therefore, the third temple is called what? Asuka. The symbol of the Anani Yakovot. It'll descend from heaven like the magic clouds of glory, which the Sukkah is a symbol of. And therefore, Amos in chapter 9, Elio calls the third temple not a mansion, but what? Asuka. It will come from the sky like the magic clouds of glory. Now, there are only 2 mitzvot, Batsheva, you do even with your boots on. There's a pasuk in Tehillim 76. Vahi b'shalem, sukkah b'nosa b'tzion. Says the Vilna Gaon on Psalm 76. There are only 2 mitzvahs you do b'shalem. What does b'shalem mean? Even with your boots on. What are those 2 mitzvahs? Sukkah u'b'nosa b'tzion. Live in a sukkah and living in Israel. No other 2 mitzvahs you do with your boots. Tefillin, you do with your boots. Tefillin, you do with your arm, your head. Matzah, shofar, you do with different parts of your body. But 2 mitzvahs you do not just with your whole body, Elio, but even with your shoes on. What's that? Living in a sukkah and living in Rechavia. I mean in Pisgat Zev. I mean in... That's pretty amazing. So we have to know that. David, 2 mitzvahs you can do, not in Canada, only in Israel. But you can do, even with your boots on, you're doing a mitzvah. Walking the land of Israel, you're doing a mitzvah even with your boots on. Now, there's a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, V'yiminoi techapkeni, with his right hand God hugs me. Hugged by the one above. Says the Riyah Kodosh, when you walk into a sukkah, you're being hugged by the one above. Michael. Shir Hashirim, bet, v'yiminoi techapkeni. And therefore a sukkah, to be kosher, Elio, you need 2 walls and a tefach. That's all you need. 2 walls and a tefach. Why is that enough? Says the Ari. 2 walls and a tefach resemble the human arm. From here to here is like 1 wall. From here to the wrist is another wall. What's this called in Hebrew? A tefach. When you walk into a sukkah, you're being hugged by the one above. So therefore, a sukkah only needs 2 walls and a tefach. From here to here is like 1 wall, from here to here is another wall, and in Hebrew this is called a tefach. Now, it's such a precious mitzvah, how come the Iranians are going to do it? And John Balkari, when Mashiach comes, John Balkari will sit in the sukkah? Liz. But let's take a look. Let's analyze over here. Let's take a look. What's the difference between Pesach? Pesach commemorates the Exodus from Egypt. And so does Sukkot. What's the difference? The difference is that on Pesach, we commemorate the Exodus from Egypt. On Sukkot, we emphasize that just like God protected us, what? When he took us out of Egypt, God protected us all the 40 years in the Midbar. You hear this? So, there's a mitzvah to believe in the coming of Mashiach. Ani Mamin, to believe in the coming Mashiach. Where's there a mitzvah to believe in the coming of Mashiach? Where is that? It's the Ani Mamin. Where's there a mitzvah? So, according to the Sefer Mitzvahs Katan, the mitzvah of Sukkah is the mitzvah to believe in the coming of Mashiach. Let me explain. Pesach, we commemorate the Exodus from Egypt. Sukkot, somehow we commemorate that just like there was a first Geula in Mitzrayim, there's going to be a final Geula as well. So according to Sefer Mitzvahs Katan, every time that you celebrate Sukkot, you are commemorating Ani Mamin, your belief in what? In Mashiach. Pesach, we remember the first Geula. The Sukkot, we remember the final Geula. Now, let's take a look at this. Pesach, we focus on remembering redemption from Egypt. On Sukkot, we focus on remembering the future redemption of Mashiach. So according to the Sefer Mitzvahs Katan, Yedus Ephraim, Sukkot is the yontiv of Mashiach. I see you're a little skeptical. I'll prove it to you. Sukkot is the yontiv of the Gula Shalema. And this explains why on the first day of Sukkot we read, if you take a look at your sheets, you read from Zechariah. You read from Zechariah, if you take a look at your sheets, you read the chapter of Melchemet Gog and Magog, the war of Gog and Magog. Gog, the great king, and his nation is called Magog. This is the war that the entire United Nations will rise up against the Jewish state. They'll be defeated, and right after that, Mashiach will come. The United Nations will be defeated. Yeah. So why do you read this on Sukkot? Madua Valama. Why should we read the Haftorah of Mechemes Gog and Magog that ushers in the Messianic era? Why should we read it what? On Sukkot. I told you why, Batsheva. Since Sukkot commemorates what? The final redemption. So it's appropriate to read about the event which will come right before the final redemption. What's that? Melchemes Gog and Magog. Our Haftorah that we read when? On the first day of Sukkot. Because that's the holiday of Mashiach. Mashiach cannot come until the war of Gog and Magog is fought. And Rav Hai Goen says that the victory over Gog and Magog will take place when? On Sukkot. So therefore, Sukkot is the holiday of Mashiach, and therefore we read this Haftorah because the victory over Gog and Magog will take place on Sukkot. Why Sukkot? Why? Oh, why Sukkot? Why Sukkot? Why? That's my question. Don't mix me up. Why Sukkot? What about Pesach and Shavuos? What am I, chopped liver? What's there about Sukkot? What? Why? That begs the question, doctor. What is the connection between Sukkot and the final Geula? I understand Pesach represents the exodus from Egypt, right? That's the time we left Egypt. But what does Sukkot got to do with what? With Gog and Magog and Mashiach. Sukkot seems to commemorate when we left Egypt, we wandered in the desert, and God sent us magic clouds to protect us. What has that got to do with what? With the final Geula, Mechemes Gog and Magog. What's the connection? Okay. You want to know? Okay. That's a rhetorical question. I want to answer. You want to try? I don't know. It's my turn. Okay. Rhetorical question, okay? Okay? Now, let's look at the Haftorah very carefully. Your hair will stand up. It's current events. The Haftorah that we read on the first day of Sukkot concludes by saying that after the final Geula occurs, all the nations will come up to Jerusalem once a year to celebrate the festival of what? Sukkot. Why will they come for Sukkot and no other holiday? Let's go to our sheets.
70 bulls were the nation.
But why? That just begs the question, Mikimia. Look at Pasuk Yud Bet. At the war of Gog and Magog, you see I have underlined nuclear war?
Yeah.
Now fasten your seatbelts, Batsheva. If you don't fasten your seatbelts for this one. This is God speaking to the prophet Zechariah 2,500 years ago, explaining what's going to happen on the holiday of Sukkot right before Mashiach comes. The United Nations will gang up against Israel. Now, fasten your seatbelts, Dr. Abramson, Rabbi Abramson. The word Magog is Gematria 52. Who's good in Gematria? Mem Gimel Vav Gimel is Gematria 52. How do you say UN in Hebrew? Ha'um. Ben Gurion said Ha'um Shmum. Remember Ha'um Shmum? Ha'um. Hey Aleph Vav Mem is Gematria Rivka 52. Rabbi Amos is just amazing.
What's the gematria of what?
The Gematria of Magog. We're going to read now. Not now, we're going to get Sukkot. Where the UN gangs up on Israel.
Right.
Gematria of Magog.
Yeah.
Who is Magog? The last time I checked, it's not. Magog is the same Gematria as Aum.
Wow.
What's Aum? Do you know UN? Koinky Dinky, Magog is Gematria 52. Ha'um is Gematria 52. So it's Magog. It's not a nation, Yehuda. It's the United Nations ganging up on Israel with Iran in the forefront. And they're going to suffer a terrible defeat. Look at Pasuk Yud Bet. I'm afraid to read this Pasuk, Rabbi Abramson. You want to read it? I'm afraid to read it. Pasuk Yud Bet, which says nuclear war. You hear what's going on, Yehuda? V'zotia Pasuk Yud Bet says nuclear war. V'zotia magefa. This will be the plague, Asher Yigov Hashem, that God will plague as kol amim, all of the nations that will gang up against little Israel. Asher tzavu al Yerushalayim, they will what? Gather to destroy Jerusalem. Hamek besoro, their flesh will melt away. For who omed al raglov, while he's still standing on his feet. You know, looking at the einof timakta b'charein, his eyeballs will melt in the sockets. It sounds like Hiroshima. U'l'shoinoi timak b'fiyem, and their tongues will melt in their mouths. It's not M&Ms. Connie, it sounds like a nuclear holocaust. If you look at the Hiroshima, while they were standing on their feet, their flesh melted away and their eyes melted in the sockets. So Zechariah seems to be describing what, Shoshana? A nuclear war where the enemy will be wiped out. John Balkari with Iran and all the UN. Is that what? How did Zechariah know about nuclear war? He only lived 2,500 years ago. Now, Pasuk Yudalit is very strange Pasuk. V'gam Yehuda tilachem b'Yerushalayim. During this great cataclysmic war that will usher in what? Mashiach. Pasuk Yudalit, Yehuda. It says, you have it in Gershom. V'gam Yehuda tilachem b'Yerushalayim. Yehuda will go to war against Yerushalayim. What does that mean? Against that half of the city that's in the hands of the PLO. V'gam Yehuda talachem b'Yerushalayim. Half of the city, East Jerusalem. The terrorists live there. They stone us with stones, and the police are out to lunch, Nebuch. The police are out to lunch. We're in the middle of an intifada. Worse. It's worse than it was in 1948. So the prophet says, V'gam Yehuda tilachem b'Yerushalayim. When Mashiach comes, Yehuda is going to take the war to Yerushalayim. We'll tell the IDF to take off the gloves and settle up with our peace partners in East Jerusalem. Abu Mamzer and company. Huh? But look, Pasuk Tezayin. Dr. Abrams, you have Pasuk Tezayin? V'hoyo kol hanotar mikol hagoyim aboy Yerushalayim. All of the survivors from the nuclear war, Batsheva, that came on Yerushalayim, v'olu midei shana b'shana, they're going to the survivors of the nuclear war, where Israel will be. We have 200 nuclear bombs. You know that? At least 200 nuclear bombs we have. V'olu midei shana b'shana. So the survivors of the nuclear war, those goyim that survived, they'll come up year to year. Lishtachavod lamelech Hashem tzavot Tziona Matai. V'lachog es chag Sukkot. Not Pesach, not Shavuos. Now look at Pasuk Yud Ches. You're not finished yet, Zalman. Pasuk Yud Ches. B'mishpachas Mitzrayim loy talev loy bo v'loy aleim tiyam hagefa. Asher yigov Hashem es hagoyim asher lo yalu. What's the end of Pasuk Yud Ches? Lo chog es chag Sukkot. In case you don't get the message, Yehuda, look at Pasuk Yud Tes. Elio, Pasuk Yud Tes, in case you don't get the message. Zois tiyas chatas Mitzrayim v'chatas kol hagoyim asher lo yalu lo chog es chag Sukkot. 3 times. Am I right? 3 times? Gershom. The prophet says that the survivors of this nuclear war will come to worship God in Yerushalayim and Chag HaSukkot. That means Ayatollah Kakamemi, if he survives, and John Balkari, if he survives, are going to come, Avi, to Jerusalem to celebrate what? No, not Hanukkah. Close. Close. It's only a few weeks difference, by the way. Not Hanukkah. Sukkot. Close, but no cigar. The question is, Dr. Abramson, why Chag HaSukkot? That's the $64 question.
Thousands of them come every year.
Look, they can't wait. They can't wait. Okay.
Look at the root of the name Zachariah. Zochar, to remember.
Zacharka, God remembers. God remembers everything. We might forget, but He remembers everything. Zechariah. Now, he said this about Sheva 2,500 years ago. Now, we know, the Gemara Megillah tells us about Sheva, there were millions of Nevi'im, millions. How come only 48 are written? So the Gemara Megillah says, page 14, Rabbi Yaakov, those millions were speaking what? For their time. I'm not interested in ancient history, but the 48 Nevi'im are speaking to us now. It's now or never. Those 48 are speaking to us now. Zechariah, we make a mistake. We have no Nevi'im today. We have 48, David. We have 48 Nevi'im. Because those millions, we don't care what they said. It doesn't bother me. I don't have to know. I'm not in ancient history. But the Nevi'im that are written down speak to us. Take a look from today's headlines. So the question is, why will the survivors of the final war of Gog and Magog, why will they celebrate Dafka, Sukkot, and no other Yom Tov? In order to answer these questions, we have to take a look at what a popular perception, what people think about God. Many people believe God created the world, but then He left the world to run. Like an artist creates a masterpiece, and then he walks away.
No way.
That's what people think. God created the masterpiece, the universe, and then goodbye and good luck. They believe that man is the most superior being of creation. And not even God has dominion over man. They believe that man can make up his own moral laws. God created the world and left the world for us to manage. We're doing a very good job, aren't we? Huh? Ices and ice cream. Why did we get the dust storm and Europe got all the terrorist refugees?
Isn't that great?
We got, why? We got first choice. We got the dust storm and they got all the terrorists. Europe is being invaded by Muslim terrorists. God has a sense of humor. They're being overrun by Muslim terrorists. The European Union. They love Muslims so much. God has a sense of humor, doctor. So where was I? The Nachash told Chava. What did Nachash tell Chava? You don't need God to tell you what's right and wrong. You're smart enough to make up your own mind. You don't need Him to tell you. That's what Nachash told Chava. That's what people think. People believe that they can make themselves safe and separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we're not under His influence, not under His control. People think they can take their own fate into their own hands, and they can build a roof between themselves and God. Gog umagog. What does Gog mean? The roof people. We are the Sukkah people. The final war, Yehuda, will be against, it will be the Gog people. What does Gog mean? The roof people versus the Sukkah people. And guess who wins? The Sukkah people. Yay! That's Gog. The leader that will lead the war against the Jewish people. Who are they really after? The Jewish God. Hitler said it in Mein Kampf, the Jew must be destroyed because the Jew gave the world a conscience, a moral law. So who did Hitler declare war on? The Jewish God. And Abu Mamzer, it's all a war against God.
Who are the roof people?
Who are the roof people? John Balkari and Iran and the UN. That's the Gog people. That's the roof people. The word Gog is the root Gog, which means roof. The nations of the world feel that they are invincible, that there's a roof dividing them from God in heaven. They can do what they want and God can't touch them. We have a Gog, Yehuda, a Gog over us, the Gog people. And it's pretty amazing that Mogog is Gematria Ha'um. It's not one nation, it's the United Nations ganging up. The roof people versus the Sukkah people. On Sukkot, we have a victory over what? The Gog people. And I'll show you how. The Sukkah has 4 walls, but it has no real roof. Does the Sukkah have a roof? No. The Sukkah, you have to be able to see the stars. Starry, starry night. Da-da-da-da-da. When you're looking at you have to see the stars. The Sukkah tells us that there is no roof between man and God. That God is actively and intimately involved with running the world. He never walked away. God is a hands-on manager, Shoshana. He didn't walk away. How do you see that? When you're sitting in the Sukkah. And what do you see? Starry, starry night. You're sitting under God's heaven. There is no roof, surely, that divides me from my Father in heaven. I can't roof myself off from my Father in heaven. When Gog is defeated and the final redemption comes, the entire world will recognize that there is no Gog. There is no roof separating man from God. That is why the UN will come up, and Iran and whoever survives will come up to Jerusalem to celebrate Sukkot, the holiday of the final redemption. The Sukkah tells them you can build walls to separate yourself from your neighbors, but you can't build a roof to roof yourself off from the one above. An oaf roof. Ooh. You can build walls to separate yourself from your neighbors, but you can't build a Gog to roof yourself off from Hashem. The blinders will come off, Reb Zalman, 1 minute. The illusion will be gone. The smoke screen that we can roof ourselves off from God, that we can make up our own laws and we don't need Him. Hello? Wake up call. They'll wake up. Yes, Reb Zalman, you had a question. Fire away, I'm all ears.
All right. I can't remember the exact psalm, but it mentions withered grass on the roof.
With the what?
Withered grass on the roof.
Withered grass on the roof. I don't remember. I remember that off. But anyway, this is the idea. That the Gog people, the roof people versus the Sukkah people. The Jewish people are the Sukkah people. We know that we can never roof ourselves up from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We can build solid walls, but we're always connected to Him. We're sitting in a fragile little Sukkah. It reminds us that we can separate ourselves from our neighbors, but not from our heavenly neighbor. So therefore the Sukkah, the schach, you have to be able to see what? The stars. It's no coincidence that world history began, please shut that, with the Tower of Babel. They're playing my song. That's my song. Kill it. Now, it's no coincidence that world history of Yaakov began with what? The Tower of Babel. World history, we're going to read it in a couple of weeks. The Tower of Babel. What did the people say? They want to build, what sin did they commit? They want to build what? The World Trade Center. What sin did they commit? Says the Barbanel, they said, V'naselonu shame. You hear? What does V'naselonu shame mean? We want to make ourselves God. We don't need him to tell us what to do. That's the Nachash counsel to Chava. You don't need him and his laws. You're smart enough to figure it out yourself. That's the worst type of idolatry, Nechama. Self-worship, when you worship yourself. Gava. V'naselonu shame. The worst type of idolatry is self-worship. That was the sin of Adam and Chava. Eating an apple, that wasn't the sin. It was self-worship. We don't need God anymore. We can figure it out on ourselves. That's the worst type of idolatry. Worshipping the ego. So world history began with self-worship. V'naselonu shame. In contrast, what's the tikkun for the Tower of Babel? Elio. The Sukkah. The Sukkah. Take a look at your sheets again. What's the tikkun for nasalonu shame? In contrast to their sin, world history began with the Tower of Babel with self-worship. How will world history end? Zechariah 14. The history as we know it will end with this nuclear war that will wipe out Abu Mamzer and Iran, and the survivors will come up. L'chog es chag Sukkot. No longer will they worship themselves. They're going to realize that this whole world is like what? A fragile sukkah. You can't make a Gog. The Gog people will, those that survive, will become what? The Sukkah people. It took 6,000 years, but better late than never, Gershom. It took 6,000 years, but we say what? Better late than what? Than never. Okay. So, why does Sukkot come right after Yom Kippur? Sukkot commemorates the magic clouds of glory. When do we get the magic clouds? Pesach. You should be sitting in a sukkah and saying Manishtana. Hello? No? The Sukkot commemorates the clouds of glory. When do we get the clouds of glory, Elio? When? Pesach. So we should be celebrating Sukkot when? At the Seder. Why is it right after Yom Kippur? It doesn't belong. The Anani HaKoved, we didn't get Yom Kippur. We got the Anani HaKoved when? Pesach, Nisan. So you sit in the sukkah by the Seder. So the Zohar HaKodesh says something incredible. Fasten your seatbelts. Are you fastened? The sukkah is God and Israel's honeymoon hut. Not Pizza Hut. Honeymoon hut. The Zohar says, after Yom Kippur, God, we did terrible sins against him. He forgave us. You sinned against somebody, I forgive you, but get lost. You did terrible things against me. Okay, I'll be a nice guy, Michael. I'll forgive you. I don't mean you. I mean, you did only good things to me. But I don't want to see you anymore. Get lost. Says the Zohar, no. When God says, Salachti on Yom Kippur, God says, don't get lost. Let's spend some quality time together. Let's go to a honeymoon hut. In a little sukkah, not in a big mansion. A big mansion, David, you can get lost. The husband is here, the wife is on the 4th floor, the husband on the 3rd floor. In a little sukkah, you can't get lost. Me and you and me, so happy together, says the Zohar. Right, Yom Kippur is the marriage between God and the Jewish people. The Zohar says it's not me. Ne'ilah, the holiest moment of Yom Kippur is called Ne'ilah. What does Ne'ilah mean? Let's lock the door and throw away the key now. I'm not joking, Gershom. Ne'ilah, the holiest moment of Yom Kippur, is when God says, let's lock the door, me and you, and throw away the key. That's the yichud between God and the Jewish people. The Ne'ilah. Remember that song, Let's Lock the Door? No? I'm dating myself. Jay and the Americans, come on. What comes after a marriage, Eliyahu? Honeymoon, says the Zohar. After Yom Kippur, after the marriage, Avi, what do you have? Mother-in-law. Honeymoon. So therefore, Sukkot doesn't come in Pesach time. Sukkot comes when? Right after Yom Kippur. Because Yom Kippur is the marriage between God and the Jewish people. And after the marriage, we go on a Yerach Devash, on a honeymoon in a little hut. Because surely when you love each other, you don't need a big mansion to be happy. God says we can be happy in a little hut. If we love each other, I forgave you. I don't want you to get lost. Even though you upset me, God said. Not only do I forgive you, but I want to spend quality time together with you. That's the symbol of what? Of the Sukkah. Why Sukkot comes right after Yom Kippur, not when it should come. When? Pesach. Sukkah, you're being hugged by the one above. And all of the people will recognize that. All of the nations will come to celebrate Sukkot. Those that what? That survive. This nuclear war that's predicted in Pasuk Yud Bet. Just amazing. You look at it again. That God will plague all of the nations that gang up against Israel. That ganged up against Jerusalem. Hamek Besoroi. His flesh will melt away. V'hu omed al raglav, while he's still standing on his feet. Ve'enov timakta b'choreyen. And his eyeballs will melt in the socket. U'lishoina timak b'fiem. Now, if you take a look at Pasuk Tet on your sheet. Pasuk Tet on your sheet. Voy Hashem lamelech al kol haaretz. Bayoim ahu, yeh Hashem echad, u'shemo echad. Pasuk Tet, right, Leo? We 3 times a day we say it. No, Abi. Pasuk Tet. Bayoim ahu, yeh Hashem echad, u'shemo echad. What do you mean on that day, Nechama? Now he isn't one? On that day he will be one? Bayoim ahu, yeh Hashem echad, u'shemo echad. Don't worry, I won't give up my day job. Don't worry, Ephraim, I won't give up my day job. But what is Zechariah saying? On that day when Mashiach comes, God will be one and his name will be one. Now he's not one. So, you see I have the footnote Ephraim on the side? Now he isn't one. Rashi says, Shemo niskar b'fi kol umot. Now only we see his oneness and uniqueness. John Balkari doesn't see it. Ayatollah Kakameni and Abu Mamzer don't see it. But there'll come a time, says Rashi, Shemo niskar b'fi kol umot. When the blinders come off and they come up for Sukkot, the entire world will acknowledge Hashem echad, u'shmo echad. Now it's only us. Now it's only us. But in the future, this is the same of Torah. When they come up in Chag Sukkot, they will realize that there's one and only nation, and the one and only God, and one and only Torah. The illusions will what? Melt away. Like they melt away standing on their feet, their flesh will melt away. Their illusions, Batsheva, will melt away.
That's what Mashiach means when God is one.
The whole,
God is one.
all nations. Now, they won't become Jewish. Keep the 7, go to heaven.
Too late for them to become.
Right. We won't accept any converts, but they'll practice the oldest religion of mankind. What's the oldest religion of mankind? Not Judaism. Noahidism. Abraham did not practice Judaism. Did you know that, Batsheva? Good thing you came today. There was no Judaism until Mount Sinai.
You don't have to worry about accepting any
Until Mount Sinai, there was no Judaism. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob practiced Noahidism plus 7 Noahide laws plus Brit Milah. Therefore, Amram married his aunt Yocheved. To marry an aunt in Jewish law is incest. How could Moshe's daddy marry his mommy who was his aunt? Marrying an aunt in Jewish law is incest.
There was no Jewish law.
Keep the 7, go to heaven. Amram and Yocheved were not Jewish. Did you know that? They were Hebrews. They were not Jewish. So therefore you can marry your aunt. A non-Jew can do it. Once the Torah was given, it became what? Forbidden. Became forbidden. Same thing, Yehuda v'Tamar. Yehuda v'Tamar marry his daughter-in-law. That's incest in Jewish law, even when the son dies. But the Torah wasn't given yet. Keep the 7, go to heaven. Beautiful, Elio. Yaakov married 2 sisters. That's also against the Torah. That's Gilead Ayot. To marry 2 sisters is incest. The Torah, what? The Torah was not given. We forget that. They had the 7 plus Brit Milah. That's what they had.
We don't have to worry about accepting converts. We don't accept any converts now. So
We start. We're starting early, right? We're starting early, not to accept. Right? That it's a sign that what? It's a sign that what? That the Mashiach is coming. Now let's speak about the Arba Minim a little bit. The Arba Minim. The 4 species. There's the lulav, the esrek, the hadas, and what? The arava. Rabbeinu Osher says that the Arba Minim represent the Arba Bonim. On Pesach night, we speak about the Chacham, the Rosha, the Tam Sheri, the Elishal, right? The Arba Minim, the Esrog, that's the Tzadik Gomor. Tam, Vareach, the Lulav comes from a date palm tree, at least has taste. The Hadass has good smell. The Arava has no taste and no smell. He represents what? The Rasha.
Oh.
But if the Arava is missing on Sukkot, can you shake, shake, shake? No. Even the Rasha is part of what? The Jewish people. Even the Rasha. Isn't that incredible? Even the Rasha. If he's not part of the bundle, you can't be Yotzeh the mitzvah. You can't just shake the 3. You need the Arava too. And the Gemara in Krisus, page 6, tells us, Rabbi Abramson, that the 11 herbs and spices, the Ketoret, 10 smelled delicious. 1, the Chelbana smelled very foul. But if it wasn't part of the mix, the whole avodah is possible. What's the Chelbana? That's the Rishayim. Even the Rasha is part of what? The mix. The Jew that doesn't smell good. He's part of the Ketoret. The highest service in the Beis HaMikdash was what? The Ketoret. And if the Chelbana was missing, if a Rasha is missing, God says, I don't need your service. So therefore, on Sukkot, you have to shake all 4, even with what? The Arava, the Rasha. And on Pesach night, you mention the Rasha. And the Ketoret has to have the Chelbana, foul smelling. That represents the Rasha. If he's not there, then we're not there. And there's a tremendous story. I'll finish with this. Have time? No? No time. Okay, they'll have to wait for next year. Finish story. The Balatanya. In the middle of Kol Nidre night, the Balatanya left. In the middle of Kol Nidre, he walked out. So people are shocked. Where's he going? So some people followed him. Where's the Balatanya? Middle of Kol Nidre. Where's he going? They followed him to a little isolated cabin in the village. There was an unmarried girl there. A girl that was not morally chaste. She had a baby and she wasn't married. That day she had a baby. And nobody wanted anything to do with her. Because she's not tsunua, she has a baby out of wedlock. For shame, we don't want to know you. The Balatanya went on Yom Kippur night, he chopped wood, and he cooked soup, and he fed her. People looking through the window were shocked. For a woman like that, an immodest woman who has a child out of wedlock, you're breaking Yom Kippur, you're chopping wood, you're cooking soup, and what? You're feeding her on Yom Kippur. The Balatanya. That's the idea of what? Of the Chelbana, of the Arava. We're all connected. A Jew is a Jew. No matter what he is, we have no right to judge. Only God can judge. And if we judge every Jew favorably, we make excuses for him or her, then God will judge us favorably and make excuses for us. The way we judge others is the way God judges us. And that's the symbol.